So now let's go ahead and create a class, and we're going to be following part of PSR1 for our coding style. We're not going to follow the full thing because it involves namespaces, and we haven't talked about namespaces yet. So what I'm going to do is right-click on Includes, and under New, I'm going to select PHP File. I'm not going to select PHP Class because that has some additional stuff in it. PHP file. And then what I want you to do is create a separate PHP file for each class you create. And then the name of the file should be the name of the class with the .php extension. And finally, the name of the class should be in upper camel case. So, for example, I'm going to create a class for name popularity record. And upper camel case means that the first letter of each word in that name is capitalized. So here's my name popularity record.php. And in my test.me file, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I require that. And I'll put it right after constants. Name popularity record.php. So what is a class? A class is a blueprint for a set of objects, and then each object is a little like an associative array. So in an associative array, you have different named keys, and each different key can have a value. So for example, in a card associative array, you might have a key called rank that holds the rank of the card, and a key called suit that holds the suit of a card. And a PHP object is like that associative array. Except instead of calling them keys and values, we tend to call them properties. So we might say that a card object has a rank property and a suit property. So similar concept, just a little different naming, and the syntax is a little different. And then later on, we'll see that you can do more things with objects that you can't do with an associative array. So that's what an object is. What is a class? Well, a class is like a design for building objects. So one class has a bunch of different objects associated with it, potentially, but each object is going to have the same set of properties. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. I'm going to say class name popularity record, curly bracket, and then I'm going to start listing the properties. And stick with me for a second. So I'm going to say public, and let's say it's going to have a name and a year and a gender and a count and a total for that year and a metaphone. So these are all properties that are going to be on each object, each name popularity record object that I create, though each object is a completely separate thing. It's just like a completely separate associative array. So I can have different values for name, year, gender, and so on. So this is a blueprint for objects, and then let's go ahead and actually create an object. So I'm going to go back to test.me, and up here I'm going to say $mark is equal to new name popularity record, and then I'm going to set some properties. So $mark pointer name is equal to mark, and $mark pointer gender is equal to m, $1962 for this particular record. So there's a record, and then let's make another one. So there are two objects. They're both based on the name popularity record class, and I set some but not all of the properties of those objects. So down here in our body, let's go ahead and add a pre-tag, and inside we'll create a PHP island, and we'll print our mark and print our Jill. And reload. So when you look at it, it looks just like an associative array with the property names as keys and then whatever I've stored as values. But the syntax for setting and accessing them is a little different. So I use this arrow syntax here to set the value of properties on the object. And you'll notice that even though I didn't set all of the properties, for example, I didn't set the metaphone property for either object, they still get displayed as values in the object, as properties of the object, just with unset values.